All right. So thank you so much to everyone who is with us this evening, and welcome to our program, Building Your Brand. I'm Emily, and I'm a librarian here at the Plano Public Library, and I will be presenting today's program. I'm joined by Jessica and Megan, who will be moderating our chat and helping with any technical issues you may have. Before we begin, I need to let you know about some ground rules that we have set up for today's program. First, you will be muted during this class, and you will have your video blocked. You will only see the instructor's screen. At the top of the screen, you will find an exit full screen option if you need to get to other things on your computer. At the bottom of the screen, you will see a captions option if you would like captions for today's program. You are welcome to ask questions or request that the instructor repeat any information at any time during today's program. You should see an icon at the bottom of your screen that says Chat. Click on that to open the chat window and enter your question. The chat is set to only be seen by library staff. If you prefer, you may also use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen to ask questions as well. Please note that any inappropriate questions or comments will be the cause for your immediate removal from today's class. For all questions, we may answer them directly in the chat or Q&A box, hold the question until a break or the end of the class, or answer immediately if it's more pressing. We will be using the instructor screen to demonstrate and may share additional resources in the chat as well. A recording of today's program will be available in a few days, so if you would like to watch the session today or review it later on YouTube, those are both options for you to have. Excuse me. All right, and with those ground rules out of the way, let's get started. On the screen, you'll see our program's agenda for today. We will be providing an overview about brands and how you can effectively build yours. Before we start, I do have a quick disclaimer that I need to mention. First, the instructor is not a business expert. The purpose of today's program is to provide general information and an overview about branding and marketing your business. For business expertise, please connect with the Dallas Score Mentor. Mentors are available each week at the Schimmelfinnick Library and the Parr Library for a free consultation. To learn more or register for one of these free consultations with a Dallas Score Mentor, please visit score.org/Dallas or planolibrary.org for more information. All right, so let's get started. So, what is a brand? A brand is an identifying name, symbol, or other marker that indicates ownership. It helps to distinguish your brand from its competition. A brand is more than just a name or a logo. It's your business, product, or service's reputation, personality, experience, and more. Essentially, your brand is your business, product, or service's public identity. Brands have a long history going back to ancient times, where they were used to denote who created them, who created the good or who owned the livestock. So think of things like cattle brands that different ranchers use, like the Running W of the King Ranch, the 6 Sixes of the 4 Sixes Ranch. The 4 Sixes of the 4 Sixes Ranch, as well as wine merchant labels and fashion designers and their obvious or subtle markings. There are 4 main types of brands: corporate, personal, product, and service. A corporate brand promotes the brand name of the corporate entity, as opposed to a specific product or service. They tend to have a broader scope than the other listed types of brands. So think of Apple, Ford, or other large, big company brand names. Personal brands are conscious and intentional efforts to create and influence public perception of an individual. This involves finding your uniqueness, building a reputation on the things you want to be known for, and then allowing yourself to be known for them. Think of the Kardashians or Instagram influencers. Product brands are created for standalone products owned by a larger corporation. This is a type of strategy that gives the product its own identity and helps to make it more unique in the marketplace. Think of the MacBook or the iPhone from the company Apple. And lastly, a service brand is a brand building process for the service industry, including banks, airlines, agencies, and management consulting firms. It involves all kinds of brand contacts, including employee image and the service environment. With this one, think of the Apple Genius Bar or the Apple Store and how that looks and feels combined with the employees and the service provided. Or think of Best Buy's Geek Squad. When developing your brand, you first need to figure out what is your brand. So what are you selling? Are you trying to create a personal brand, a product brand? What exactly is your goal with creating a brand? What problem are you trying to solve? All of these are important questions to begin asking yourself. Is your brand established, or are you starting from a blank slate? Either is completely fine. Building your brand does not need to occur overnight and will evolve over time as your company does. This is a good first step when creating or reevaluating your current brand. Your next step should involve market research. Market research is the systematic process of gathering, analyzing, and interpreting information to determine the viability of a service or product within a specific market or industry. Market research is important to brand development because it gives you insight into your customers' needs, preferences, and market, and ensures your product is resonating with your audience. You can also add secondary research to get to know who your competitors are, as well as the area that you're going to be marketing your brand in. This will help to make sure that your branding is unique enough to capture your audience while maintaining industry awareness. And I'll stop for just a moment and ask, are there any questions so far? Not hearing anything, so I will take that as no questions. Next, you should be asking, what are you selling? Are you selling a product or a service? A product is a tangible good or a physical object that is manufactured and refined for sale. It's something that the consumer can physically own. A service, on the other hand, is an intangible act or performance. It's based on a relationship and cannot be owned, only consumed at the time of delivery. Now think of your brand. Are you providing a service, a good? Who is selling it? Your company, a personal service? What problem is your product solving? How are you communicating that intent to your audience within your branding? All of this matters more and more to your audience lately as consumers are translating purchasing power into an investment into the promoted product identity. Think of supporting women-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, environmentally friendly businesses, and so on. Now you'll need to consider who your target audience is. Unfortunately, everyone is not our audience for our specific brand, product, or service. As nice as that would be. So, in order to be successful, you'll need to identify the people who will be easily moved to want and buy into your brand. Consider the following of your target audience: their demographic, their psychographic, their behaviors, and their geographic natures. Consumers want to support brands that appeal to their identity. So you want to more closely connect with them in order to have better success with selling them your brand. When considering who your target audience is, you will also need to consider who is not your target audience. Some people will just not be interested in your brand or product, and it's important not to waste your time and energy as well as resources chasing those who are not interested. Take, for example, a cat food company trying to promote their items to someone who owns a dog or a lizard or a snake. They're clearly not people interested in your cat food brand, and you don't need to make them buy a cat. Nor do you need to branch out and start selling dog food, lizard food, or snake food unless you want to. A good way to define your audience is to develop keywords that encompass your brand and who falls into those categories. Then you can start to focus in on where your energies can most effectively be used. With these things in mind, does your brand match your vision of your target audience? Next, you will need to define your brand identity. Your brand identity is all visible and conceptual elements that define how you want your brand to be perceived. This includes your design, all of your visual aspects, so your logo, your color scheme, your choice of name and other visual elements, as well as your promotional language and customer interactions. To achieve your brand identity, you'll need to first define your core values. What is your brand about? Your core values are defined as the beliefs that you, as a company, stand for. These include your mission statement, company vision, public initiatives. They may include things like your commitment to environmentalism or sustainability, promoting a women-owned business, and so on. This is personal. This is something that can take time and may develop over time as your business continues to grow. Don't let your brand development get stalled on this little detail. Next, you'll need to develop your image. This is where you're going to consider all the visual aspects of your brand and who you're going to discuss. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll discuss this a little bit later. But again, these are things like your brand color, your logo, your font and typography, and so on. And you'll need to align all of this with your market research. You did all of that market research and you don't want it to go to waste. So while you are defining your brand identity, make sure you are considering what information you found out about your target audience and the market. Try not to make decisions that go directly against your market research and really take the time to be intentional about making decisions about your brand identity. When developing your brand, it's also important to develop SMART goals. SMART marketing goals are actionable objectives you intend to accomplish to support your company's broader targets within a given period. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. These are important tools to keep in mind to help document and maintain standards as you are developing your brand. Things to keep in mind are your company size, audience reach, your goals for developing marketing material, social media goals, product release schedule, and so on. All of these elements are important to running your business, but are also integral to brand development. We mention this to help you find a frame of reference to stay on track with this process. There are many other project management tools and objects out there, so feel free to choose whatever works best for you, but we wanted to give you one example of a way to get started with this. Next, you'll need to figure out how your brand is going to communicate with your consumers. So how are you communicating with your audience? Will you be using social media like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and so on? Which social media will you consider using based on who your target audience is? Are they more Gen Zs who are more prone to using TikTok? Are they millennials who prefer Instagram? Or are they Gen Xers who prefer Facebook? So it's very important to consider not only using social media, but which social media platform you choose. Will you be using commercial advertising? Do you have a budget that you can utilize to expand and pay for this? Will you use emails? How are you going to attain those emails? Similarly, will you use phones to communicate with, live chats, newsletters, personal interactions with your customers, as well as community engagement? Will you be out in the community at farmers markets or other big events in order to interact and engage with your consumers? Keep in mind these considerations when it comes to communication. It's very important to be intentional and aware of your online presence and communication to ensure that aligns with your brand. It is very hard to change your consumer's impression of your brand once information is out there. This is to say, please be careful of what you say, and once you put something online, it stays online forever. Touching more on social media and your brand. Social media is an excellent resource for having an online presence and having direct communication with your audience, as it gives you a chance to highlight your products, be an informational tool for your audience, and to communicate with your consumers in short bursts. It's important to note that social media is not a field of dreams situation. That is to say, if you create it, it does not mean people will automatically find you. If you're going to invest the time in building your brand on social media, you have to be aware of how consumers find you on the internet. You want to be very intentional with your communication because it will always be there, as well as how you utilize search engine optimizations and keywords to maximize your discoverability. And I'll take a moment. Are there any questions, Jessica or Megan, from our audience so far?
Don't have any in the chat right now, but let's wait just a second to see if somebody decides to ask one. We got half a question. What is the difference between product and we're waiting for the second half. What is the difference between product and company brand again?
Yes, so wonderful question. So your product branding is specific to that product. So again, we can think of the iPhone as a product brand, whereas your company brand is the brand for your larger company. So for the iPhone, the product brand would be the iPhone, whereas the company brand would be Apple. For other examples, think of Acura, the car company. The parent brand or company brand would be Acura, whereas the product brand would be their individual cars, like the TLX, the RDX, and so on. We can even think of cereal companies and Post or Kellogg, again, as the company brand or the corporate brand, sorry. And then the product brands are those individual cereal lines. So very, very good question. And again, the product brand just helps you to distinguish and focus your branding for that specific product to help build a bigger reach and audience for that specific product.
They say thank you.
And if there are no other questions, we will continue.
Which one would it be better to focus on first?
Ooh, that is a tough question. And I don't know if I have a perfect answer for you for that question. It really just depends on what you're trying to sell. So if your brand is right now more focused on the product, you may want to focus on developing that product brand. Whereas if the product isn't something that is in a stage that it can stand alone, quite yet. You may want to focus on just building up your company brand. So I know that that's an answer without an answer, but that it really, again, depends on your product. And I, again, would highly recommend, if you do have further questions on that, connecting with a SCORE mentor who can help with a one-on-one session to go through and help you to decide what might be your better option. But wonderful question. Thank you. Anything else? Or do they have any follow-up questions, Jessica?
They kind of reiterated when you start a company,
Okay.
it's better to make the company brand or the product brand, but I think the advice would still be, it depends.
Yes. So
And
what you decide to develop, if it's your product brand first or your company brand first, or if you create them simultaneously, is really going to depend on your situation. And again, what you want to focus on in that situation. So if we go back to our example with Apple, Apple started off creating software. So Apple created the parent company first. And then from there, they created their different product lines that we now know today as the MacBook and the iPhone and the iPod and so on. Whereas other companies, oh gosh, I don't have great examples at the moment, but I can think of my friend jokingly once came up with an idea of a beach pillow that he called the Billow. So he had no company, but he had this great idea for a product brand called the Billow. So in his case, because his company was solely focused on just one product, he may have focused on the product branding before he focused on building the company brand behind it. If that makes sense and helps to explain that answer. All right. So if there are no other questions, we'll continue on, but please, if there are questions, add them to the chat or the Q&A feature, and we will get to them as soon as possible. All right, so part of creating your brand is developing, is brand development and marketing. So when you're creating a brand, you will need to create a brand with sales goals in mind. So how are you going to create material within your brand to get customers investing in your brand? You want to have your sales goals in mind. This is your journey to a potential customer takes from first contact with your company to becoming a customer. All right, and we will use this method called a sales funnel method to define that. And one fun way of using the sales funnel method, or one type of sales funnel method, is called the tofu, mofu, bofu. And so the tofu is the top of the funnel, the mofu is the middle of the funnel, and the bofu is the bottom of the funnel. So when we are following the journey of a potential customer from first point of contact until being a customer, that is the top of the funnel to the bottom. So the top of the funnel is where that customer is maybe interested in your product or your company or your service, and they're taking a peek around. So they move towards the middle of the funnel as they learn more and as you engage them more in your brand. And finally, they enter the bottom of the tunnel where they realize that your product or your service or your company is something that is going to solve their problem, and they want to become your customer. So we always want to be trying to move all of our target audience through the the tofu, mofu, bofu funnel in order to make them customers. Now, the benefits of using this method is it allows you to be more effective with your marketing, as well as it helps to increase your conversion rates. So going from a potential customer to an actual customer. Any questions with this? And as they move through the tunnel and they go through the bottom of that and they become a customer, they are starting to buy into your products. So if we think of things like watching a Swiffer infomercial, So someone has a problem, they have dust everywhere on their floor. So they see an infomercial for a Swiffer or a commercial for a Swiffer. So they're at the top of the funnel and it's like, oh, there's a problem. And as they listen to that commercial and they learn more about the Swiffer and how it can help them solve their dust problem in their home, they move towards the middle of that funnel and they become more interested. And as they're sitting there watching that commercial, they may go on their phone to Target or another store and add a Swiffer to their cart because, this Swiffer may solve my problem of all this dust in my home. And so they enter the bottom of that funnel and eventually click buy. And now they've purchased your product and they become a true customer. So it's a great way to kind of think about how you can get people to become more interested and aware of your product and eventually customers of your product and your brand. I say product, but I also mean your company, your service, whatever it is you are trying to sell. All right. And now, again, we are going to, as I mentioned before, focus on the visual branding of your company. So with visual branding, the first step is to create a visual style guide. Your visual style guide is going to include all elements of your brand, from your color scheme to your font scheme, logos, as well as all other graphics, even your thumbnails, banners, anything visual that makes up your brand's iconography. What is iconography? Besides a word that is very hard to say for myself. Well, it is defined as the visual images and symbols used in a work of art or the study or interpretation. In marketing, this includes all of your brand's graphics that appear in your website, blog, social media, and print materials. So if you've ever heard the phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words, this applies to those images for your brand, as well as making it an essential tool of marketing for your business. Your color scheme is for your visual guide is the full range of colors that your brand sets as its identity. This will include the primary set, secondary set, print, as well as digital color palettes. I'm so sorry. So for print considerations, you have your CMYK color scheme, and for your digital considerations, you have your RGB. Think about business entities like Chase Bank and their very specific blue, or Tiffany's and their very specific Robin's Egg blue, or Starbucks with their green color palette. They have clearly defined primary and secondary colors that make up their brand's visual image, and they never deviate from those predefined color schemes because it would go against their branding. Font scheme is your brand's typography, which is essential to conveying your brand's personality. Many brands will even custom create their typeface or font to reflect their brand and to be unique. A font scheme also includes a primary font, so one that is recognizable and commonly used, as well as a secondary font and a web-safe font, because not all fonts are supported across all digital devices. Your logo is also part of this iconography, as well as your visual style guide. This is your company and your brand's most recognizable image. These are meant to convey the values of your company and are versatile for both print and digital media. And your graphics. So how are these different from your logo? Well, brand graphics are graphics that your brand creates or designs to match your aesthetic and are uniquely identifiable as belonging to your brand. These can include your logo, color, and font, but are more predominantly templates you create for social media, websites, letters, flyers, and more. For more information about how color, font, and logo designs can reflect your brand, please check out our class on Illustrator logo design, which is available on the Plano Library's YouTube channel. And I will mention this again, as well as how to access this at the end of the class. Your promotional material is also something you need to consider when building your brand. And you need to consider your promotional material within the print world as well as the digital world. So for print, you have newspapers, magazines, brochures, and flyers. For digital, you have social media, email, websites, blogs, and so much more. Never underestimate the power of print. So even though we live in a very highly digital world, print is still very popular and effective at marketing your brand, as well as establishing your brand. Understand where to post material online is also essential. The information hopefully was uncovered during your market research for where to focus your digital marketing and promotional material for your brand, as well as your print material. Any questions there?
No questions so far.
Thank you so much, Megan. All right, so now that we understand the basics of building your brand and everything that is involved in it, we're going to take the last of our class to go through some examples of different brands. So we are going to start here with this brand. And if anyone here is familiar with this logo that you see, as well as the color scheme, you will know that it is the branding and logo for the Plano Public Library. Now, this logo was created not too long ago. I forget the exact year now, but it's a logo that was created to reflect our current values as well as organization. So you'll see on the screen that there are 5 different colors used here, and those are to represent the 5 locations of the Plano Public Library. And the star in the middle is to reflect the star used in the City of Plano's branding. So it can be seen that the Plano Public Library is a department within the City of Plano. We use this brand logo here, as well as color scheme, on all of our marketing materials. So on the right side here, you'll see a library card for the Plano Public Library, which has that same logo, as well as the very specific font that we use for all promotional material for the Plano Public Library. And on here, I know it's kind of hard to see on this image here, but you can see we have our primary font, and then below it, there is a secondary font as well. Next, we will look at another very well-known brand. And if hard to do it in the digital world, but if this was an in-person session, I would ask what this brand was. Since we unfortunately do not have that fortune, I will share for you. So this brand is for Target. So when we look at the image here, it is a large red Target. So anyone who sees this, even without the name, can know and recognize that this is the brand or logo for Target. They use a very specific red as well as white shade in all of their branding, and they spread that across all their different marketing areas. So their shopping carts and shopping baskets within Target stores have that same logo. They also use the same red color scheme. On their website, they use the same logo as well as color scheme and aesthetic. So anyone who sees this image pop up, maybe on a social media ad or on a newspaper ad or flyer, will know this is Target, even if it does not say Target. Another example on the screen is Barbie. So Barbie has been around for many years, and their brand and branding has evolved over that time. So we can see the different Barbie branded logos, as well as the slight color differences throughout the years. So we have this one here, which is a little bit of kind of a more bubbly, purpley, pinkish shade versus this one here, which is more of a scripted, lighter pink shade, and then more of a casual, more purpley again, and then kind of going back to a throwback. But regardless, anyone seeing this is going to know that this is Barbie, as in Barbie, the Mattel doll. So we get a certain feeling from all of this. As I mentioned, the script is bubbly, so it's giving you that kind of upbeat, happy feeling when you look at this. It's pink, so it has a very feminine appeal to it. And it's also a lighter shade of pinkish purple. The bubbly font and typography here kind of give me more of a youthful appeal. So I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling youthful, I'm feeling very feminine as I'm looking at this Barbie logo here. The next example I have for you is one that I think many may recognize, Tiffany and Company. So Tiffany and Company does a very, very stringent job at developing their marketing and being very consistent with their marketing. So they use a very specific, as well as trademarked typography. So it is always this serif font, very elegant, very tidy, specific to the company. And they are known for their very specific shade of Tiffany blue, which is I believe it's patented or trademarked. I forget the correct term for it. But it is a very specific trade secret color that no one else is able to know and recreate or use, because it is so specific to that company and it is tied to their brand identity in such a way. Anyone who gets a Tiffany blue box, even if it does not say Tiffany on it with the little white bow, you know that that is Tiffany and Company. Even here, if we were to cover up the name here, just seeing this little bit of blue with the bow, you might get a feeling that it is coming from this company. A couple more examples. Another highly recognizable one is Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola not only has their very specific shade of red as well as white that they use on all of their marketing materials as well as products and company, but they use a very specific font that is unique to the company. They use very specific bottle shapes that are unique to the company. So everything about this, again, even if you take off the name of the company here, you're going to instantly say, oh, this is a Coca-Cola or this is a Coke. Part of the branding even is for the product. So I know we kind of talked about focusing on the product versus the company. The Coca-Cola brand is a product brand, as well as a company brand. So Coca-Cola started off as a product brand and developed into a corporate brand. They started off by creating this one specific product, and it evolved eventually to becoming the company that had other products under it. But it was such a successful product brand that even today, when someone says, I want a soda, a lot of times they'll say, I want a Coke, meaning any type of soda. So it's an incredible feat to kind of take over your entire market with your product name representing that market. And a great example of building your brand in a successful manner. Right. Our next example, as we kind of briefly mentioned before, is Starbucks. So Starbucks here, I love as an example because it goes through the evolution of a brand. So Starbucks, when it started off, developed in the 70s, 80s, looks completely different than it does today. So the coloring of Starbucks was originally a kind of coffee bean brown shade. The emblem was this kind of mermaid figure with exposed chest area, very detailed image. So it's not something that would maybe necessarily work detail-wise on a digital world, but it worked great in the 1970s and 80s when print was more the focus for marketing material. Then over time, it evolved to getting rid of that brown shade and moving to a green and black primary color scheme. The font also adjusted slightly, so it became more prominent. They changed the name as well during that process, so they're focusing more on coffee versus tea and spices. And your mermaid figure, while there, has evolved and changed a little bit. And then throughout the years, she changes a little bit more, though the color stays about the same. And again, eventually she becomes such a recognizable figure that like the Target symbol, as well as the Tiffany blue, anyone seeing this green specific color or this image here will recognize this as Starbucks. So all this to say, your brand, whether it is for your corporate, your service, or your product, can start with a certain color scheme, logo, any kind of visual brand identity elements, and evolve over time as your company evolves over time. Next up, we have Orkin. So Orkin, again, uses a very specific color scheme as well as symbol. So they use the graphic design with the little triangle here. So anyone who sees this car, up ahead of them, they may not be able to read the Orkin, but they can see this triangle here, the specific shade of kind of orangey red. And they're going to know, you know what, that's probably a bug guy there. So they might think I need to call someone and treat some ants I've got going on. So just a great example of it doesn't have to be very ornate. It doesn't even have to involve what your company or your product might be. So long as it's something that reflects your brand. So Orkin, it's a very straightforward, very direct logo here. It's all business. So they don't need a little bug on here for them to know it's a bug business because they've done such a good job at branding and making their brand well known just based on the color and name alone. And then lastly, we have a brand that we created. So this is for a Green Thumb plant nursery, which is a fictional plant nursery that we have designed here at the Plano Public Library. And you can see here kind of the evolution of creating your brand. So we don't expect anyone where you're developing your brand to have that final brand created from the get-go. So think of the Starbucks brand. You've started with one logo, one color scheme, one brand identity, and it evolves over time into something else. So with this one, it can play around with different ideas, but we really want people to get an idea about what our brand is about and help people with their perceived image of our brand through our logos and designs. So with this, we've Green Thumb Nursery. So we've created a color scheme that's largely focused on more natural elements, as well as skin tones here. So we've got our thumb here with our little leaf. So anyone seeing this here is going to know, obviously, because there's text involved, that it's a plant nursery. If they see this just without the green thumb here, they might get an idea that this has something to do with plants and being good at keeping your plants alive. And then we've got some other ideas. So a thumbprint or a fingerprint with the initials of our nursery on it. So don't be afraid to try things out and change them over time. So just make sure that if you are changing them, it is being communicated with your audience. So if your target audience is someone you want to keep and you're doing brand evolvement, it may be something you want to try and do subtle changes over time. So not to potentially lose those customers. If you're doing a complete brand relaunch or a reevaluation of your brand, going a different direction, but you want to keep that same name, and maybe some of those customers, you may go drastic overnight. It just, again, all of it is case by case. And dependent on your company, who your target audience is, and what you're trying to convey. And with that, any questions?
No questions right now.
Okay. All right. So if there are no questions, we do have some additional resources to share. So if you have any questions about any of the information we shared today, or if you would like to learn more about building your brand or any tools that the library can provide to you, I highly recommend utilizing our Book a Librarian and Ask a Librarian services. Book a Librarian is a 30-minute one-on-one session with a librarian to go through any questions that you might have. Ask a Librarian is an email service, so you're able to email your questions and receive a response back within a reasonable amount of time for those. The Dow Score Mentors, as I mentioned before, are an excellent source. So they are free mentors who can help you to build your business at whatever stage you're in. So if you're just starting off with an idea, they can help you out. If you've got a business up and running and you're just trying to maybe finesse your business plan, or you want to go over different marketing or branding ideas you have. So they are a great resource that can help out with that. We do have many books about building your brand as well as marketing located in our adult fiction collection, which is located in the 650s section. And then the Plano Public Library YouTube channel is where you will find this program as well as many other programs related to business and entrepreneurship. So like that I mentioned previously, there's an Illustrator class about designing your logo. You can find that on the Plano Public Library YouTube channel. And it's if you go to YouTube and you search Plano Public Library, you can find us that way, or you can do the Plano Public Library as the handle for that. And lastly, the Plano Public Library has many, many databases available to you, which can help you with building your business or entrepreneurial venture. Those include LinkedIn Learning and Udemy, which are self-paced learning tools where you can watch videos on different topics to help build those hard and soft skills. Gale One File Business, which is a business resource where you can find all sorts of information about all different business topics. Gale Business Entrepreneurship, which is a database that contains many different examples of business plans. So if you are writing a business plan, thinking a business plan, or just want to know what a business plan is, I highly recommend checking that out. And Reference Solutions, which is a great tool for completing your market research. And if you are interested more in learning about market research and reference solutions, we do have a program on that. And you can find that on our Plano Public Library YouTube channel, as well as we do offer it on occasion at the Plano Public Library in person. And then lastly, I want to mention a few programs that we have coming up over the next month. So Score Mentoring, as I mentioned, we do offer that at the Schimmelfinnick and Parr Libraries. Schimmelfinnick is available on Thursday evenings, and the Parr Library is available on Wednesday evenings. Unfortunately, the Schimmelfinnick Library is closed for a project until about mid-June. So those will not be happening currently, but the Parr Library sessions on Wednesdays are still occurring. We also have our Team Up for Entrepreneurial Success, or TOOS program, which happens on the fourth Tuesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. at the Haggard Library. And the topic this month will be selling online, and that will be on Tuesday, May 27th. We also have a program, Make Your Website Work for You, which will be on 6:30 on Monday, June 9th, and that will be a virtual program. And an Access to Capital program on June 12th at 12 o'clock, which will also be virtual. And with that, are there any questions about today's program? And if you don't have any questions now, you are always welcome to email me at the email on the screen, and I'm more than happy to answer those for you.
I don't see any questions in the chat or Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Megan. All right, and if there are no questions, then that is it for our program for today. I do want to thank everyone for attending once again. And again, this program will be available on the library's YouTube channel in a few days, along with all of our other virtual programs. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and have a wonderful evening. Jessica, you can go ahead and end the program.